As promised, the sun did come up in Dallas, but it did not, unfortunately, change the outcome of what happened on New Year's Eve at AT&T Stadium. Welcome to The Beat. This is not Berm. This is Bobby Carpenter. I am Austin.
Is Berm dead?
I haven't seen him yet, but I hope he's all right. Because, again...
Negative Berm is a scary dude.
I think the problem was, Bob, he got a little confident. We booked that flight to Phoenix. You did too. I did too. We were all ready to go. Buckeyes were favored by almost 10 on that line throughout the week. It did drop a couple points at the end, but that wasn't even about the spread last night. They got beat outright, and primarily they got beat in the trenches.
It was tough on the offense and defensive line. And one of the things that I talked about leading into the game, looking at it and trying to figure it out, it's like having to win first down on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And you never really felt like they got that running game going offensively, putting Julian Sand in some longer down and distances, putting that offensive line in some longer down and distances where they struggled against a really good pass rush. We knew that was a good pass rush, though. We did not sit there and parcel out the fact that they're not here. No, they had really good players.
They just went right at them.
And, they did some things. They did a little bit of movement, but a lot of it was just straight rush. And then on the other side of the ball, it's could you keep Carson Beck in long down and distance situations? And I want to say Ohio State was only 30% on first down. Texas A&M was much closer to 50%. They did a much better job. And Carson Beck scrambled a little bit. He used his legs, picked up some, maybe was a little short on others, but did a good job hanging in the pocket. And when you have that asymmetry there on third down, it's a tough thing to overcome.
When you replayed it in your mind, Bob, and I think
I don't want to do that.
I know you don't want to.
How would I want to do that?
It's not fun. But when you rehash it, this game really did hinge on the things that we thought it would. And, some of the issues that popped up against Indiana plagued Ohio State again. And I guess to me, it was as simple as Miami's defensive front dominating the game. And conversely, I don't think that the Silver Bullets played poorly by any stretch of the imagination. They gave up 17 points to a really good team. Ohio State should win a lot of those games. But, even up front, as much as highly as we think of Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry and Arvell and Sonny, they didn't generate nearly as much pressure, at least as consistently as Miami did. And that's not to point fingers or assign blame because, again, I don't think that the Silver Bullets deserve that. But championships are won in the trenches. That cliche is true for a reason.
So looking at that, is that some scheme? Is that individual personnel? Maybe a little bit of it? I thought Execution actually played one of his best games of this season. But Miami did a good job of blocking up a lot of the things that they ultimately brought. I don't know if they brought a ton of pressure, maybe a little bit of 5-man. There were some simulated pressures where they would bring 4, but they'd be dropping guys and bringing others. Really didn't sell out. When they did, it seemed like they got there, but weren't really able to impact Carson Beck in the way that we had hoped, as one of the things that we had talked about.
He's a veteran quarterback.
He is. And, you go back and look at one of the third downs that they ran the in cut on, and Arvell Reese is a quarter step away from getting what appeared to be like a strip sack. Yeah. Beck steps up, bangs it in, a 10-yard in cut on a 3rd and 7, and it's, next thing you know, first down. And those are the way, those are the things that are going to drive Ryan Day crazy at night. As you sit there and you look at that play, and then you look at another play, and you're like, wow, we had him here, we had him there. We had opportunities to be able to get something done. And credit to Miami for stepping up and making those plays. But that's the one thing, when you're in a tournament situation with other elite teams, it's, I call it chasing edges, trying to find the edges of how you can improve. And that's really what they had to work on here.
So, you mentioned Ryan Day going crazy. He had 25 days to prepare. There was still the coaching staff transition going on with Brian Hartline, and Ryan was public in saying, I'm going to call the plays, going to be more organized. Keenan Bailey's going to go up into the press box. And I assumed, which is a dangerous thing to do, that they would get some of that stuff fixed. But I don't know that I've ever been able to pin down exactly why, whether it was, again, this overarching year-long strategy to slow down the tempo, or if there was something about the way that this offense was constructed that he just didn't feel comfortable doing that the whole time. There were moments on Wednesday night where they did push it, and it was really successful, but I don't know what it is that didn't connect with that, because the whole promise of pushing the gas pedal when it needed to be done, that switch didn't get flipped.
It didn't feel like they ever went up tempo. Not really.
Yeah.
not in the way that we've seen them do it in the past. And that's one of the things I think is the most frustrating is when you've seen a team do it, well, why not? Well, I understand. Last year you started playing a little slower, and this year you did it, and you got to be able to win that way. And I think that's something Miami wanted to do. I think they wanted to slow the game. They wanted to sit on the ball a little bit. I think that was evident. They looked like this game had a little bit of a Michigan game feel to it with how they played the game. Yeah. They ran the ball. They didn't really throw it. They had some gimmicks, some nuances. The first touchdown pass, great scheme. They're sitting there faking the jet sweep to Malachi Toney. They leak the back out, and they're challenging you in a man coverage situation. So there's a lot of stuff there that you ultimately have to understand of what was happening. And so you got to give them credit for that. But it didn't feel offensively like, hey, boom, let's get it, boom, boom, boom. Every drive was going to take 7 minutes. And that's not a bad thing, but knowing this offense and what they were capable of and seeing some of the shots and some of the things that they did, and I don't know if that was a protection thing, but even when you get up tempo, sometimes that helps your protection because it wears the D-line out. So there were some levers that I'm surprised weren't tested and pulled on Wednesday night.
Yeah, and I think that you could tell Brian Hartline did not want to leave the locker room on Wednesday night. Yeah. It was the finality of that for him, for someone who's given so much of his life to Ohio State and still will, even as he leaves for South Florida. But the way that all worked out, there is a position on the staff that has to be filled. And I wonder what this will look like now for Ryan Day, because there was an audition of sorts, a test case for Keenan Bailey, for Tyler Bowen, for Billy Fessler, that maybe this offense and the infrastructure was going to be fine as long as Ryan Day was at the top, based on what would happen in the college football playoff. But they only wound up getting one of those games out of 3. So, I don't know how this will end, Bob. I don't know what your read on the situation would be or what Ryan Day needs. But, just hearing him talk after the game on Wednesday, I don't think that this could be a situation of status quo now. And maybe I'm overreacting in the immediate fallout of a loss. But you look at what happened against not just Miami, but also Indiana, and a lot of the tempo things that we talk about. It feels like maybe there could be more value placed on an outside hire than I would have thought 2 weeks ago.
Well, what's interesting with that is what does an outside hire look like? Brian Hartline coached the wide receivers.
Yeah.
He was also the offensive coordinator. Do you bifurcate that? Mm-hmm. Do you hire a wide receivers coach? Do you reassign the offensive coordinator duties? Maybe you hire someone internally as the wide receivers coach. You bring in someone externally as the offensive coordinator. Because we live in a world now where you can have multiple, it's not a finite number of coaches. So there's unlimited, Mr. Unlimited. It's all there for you. And so looking at that and trying to figure that out as they try to parcel out what they're going to do. Do you just hire this guy, hire that guy? And let's not forget, Chip Kelly was just hired here at Northwestern, and so that's another thing. A guy who people maybe thought was going to be a part of this is no longer in that mix. So there's some different things that they're trying to work through, and I'm not sure if it's an outside hire. Coming to mind, there's nobody that I can think of that's hey, this is a slam dunk that fits with Ryan, it fits with the staff, personality-wise, and all the things you're looking for.
Yeah, but I remember 10 months ago, Matt Patricia did not immediately come to mind for me. And even though you have experience with him and vouched for him from day one and said, we just give it some time, this guy knows so much ball. It's an example of Ryan Day's expanding net and a different attack for the way he's building out this coaching staff. So what does it look like? Who could it be? It could be anybody. Yeah. Bill O'Brien was the pre-Chip Kelly. We almost forget about that 2-week era in the Woody.
It's a big era.
Those are the kind of, that's the reel that he's casting out there. Yeah. He's chasing bigger fish, and he didn't do that with Brian Hartline, and we can argue whether that was the right or wrong approach. It didn't lead to a national championship, but I imagine that's going to be the road that he's got to go down again now.
You probably look outside and see what's out there, and the thing is, defensively, I don't think Ryan cared if they changed it up, and did some other things. Offensively, this is the Ohio State offense. It's Ryan Day's offense. And so who wants to come in and absorb that the terminology, absorb the philosophy of it, and they can expand on it. You can build on it, but it's not going to be yours. And so, like, Chip was perfect because there was a system that they had grown up in together, and so there was a lot of synergy with that. I don't know that there's somebody out there that's doing that. So you're going to have to be like the Nick Saban route, where hey, we have the Alabama offense. We're going to bring in Lane Kiffin. We're bringing in Steve Sarkisian. Like, is there a coach out there? Do you bring in a Sharon Moore?
You brought it. No, you don't do that.
Wait, is that not a thing?
Alabama did bring in Brian Daboll for a year. That's my ideal wish list. I don't know what you're.
And maybe that's someone that you could possibly bring in and try to figure that out. So there's guys out there. There's possibilities, and that'll be interesting to see.
All right, so I'll get you out of here on this. We've all got to travel back home to the great state of Ohio.
By the way, I love the fact that there's people working on New Year's Day. That's insanity.
And a lot of the Cotton Bowl staffers, which they continue to do a fantastic job, they just told us they have to do, the interns have to do a presentation at 9 a.m. on New Year's Day. What professor is forcing that?
Psycho.
These wonderful people have been working like 24 hours a day all week to help.
Dr. Lecter is who that is.
Unfortunately, that's probably correct. So, big picture, Bob, I know that this will sound like silver lining, too much optimism. When you look at what this team accomplished and then didn't accomplish, there was so much preseason conversation. Well, if you beat Michigan.
That's all you needed, right?
Right.
Everybody told me, I don't care what happens as long as you beat Michigan. I thought you might go there.
Yeah.
That was achieved. I think that took I think that did take an emotional toll on this team, getting that done. The staff, the team, they were happy about it. Like, you saw it against Indiana. And I'm telling you, like, my eyes did not deceive me. I felt really good about this team coming into this game. I was looking at more of the skill position players on offense and the defense, because I thought this offensive line was really good.
Yeah.
And looking at it now, I think there's a realization that, there were some issues. And, you're going to Ian Moore, you
had to go to Josh Padilla. Started Gabe Van Sickle.
Like, there was some things, like, and it looked better in the second half, but that's kind of how it was against Indiana.
Yeah.
And you can't dig yourself a hole against good teams like this.
Yeah, and I just think that's not to make anyone feel better, because I know that that's not, we're one day removed from it, but winning that game and getting to the college football playoff, knowing that there was uncertainty with Julian Sayin and everyone looked at the defense and replacing 9 starters, like, this is all going to be overshadowed by the fact that Ohio State altered the expectations in real time for itself, which makes it sting more. I certainly feel that as much as anybody. Maybe not as much as the players and not as coaches.
3 unanimous All-Americans.
And you had, a historic defense. That's the part to me that feels like it was squandered. And I know that sucks. Only one team wins the national championship, and it's hard to do.
Well, and they had their issues listen, they gave up 17 points. And we can even argue about the last touchdown of whether they let it in or what happened. There were opportunities in that game, just like there were against Michigan in 2024, where you've got to find a way to get off the field. And I know Matt Patricia's looking at that. I know Sonny Style, like all those guys, that will haunt them. Situations, a 3rd and 5 after you score coming out in the second half, like getting bled a little bit here or there. Like there were plays, there were situations where they got a couple more yards, misfitting runs.
Yeah.
Like all those things are going to be there, and that's going to hurt.
It will, but all they can do now is turn the page to 2026, and we will do that.
Bob Seger.
On The Beat, which of course is brought to you by the Waterworks. So on to 2026 and back on to a plane to get to Ohio. Thank you very much to Bobby Carpenter for spending some time right here with us to break down further what happened to Ohio State, losing to Miami 24-14 in the Cotton Bowl. For Bob, I'm Austin Ward. We'll talk to you later.